We are often told to think of the story of Abel and Cain as a moral lesson against resentment. But in focusing on the surface-level meaning of the story, we miss the fundamentally amoral worldview which underpins it. At the core of the story of Abel and Cain is a theory of life, God, and virtue which was intuitive for the ancients, but which frightens the modern listener whose morals have strayed far from nature. Virtue is not doing or saying the correct thing, or the thing which causes the least harm. Virtue stems from having the correct relationship with life and is fundamentally linked with vitality. God does not favor the moral man. God favors the strong. Abel was a keeper of sheep, but Cain was a tiller of the ground. And in the course of time, Cain brought the fruit of the ground as an offering to God, and Abel brought the meat and fat of the firstlings of his flock. And God had respect for Abel and his offering, but he had no respect for Cain and to his offering. And Cain was very wroth, and his countenance fell. And God said unto Cain, Why are you wroth, and why has your countenance fallen? If you do well, will you not be accepted? And if you do poorly, sin lies at your door. Cain works as hard as Abel, if not harder, and offers the fruit of the earth, meaning the plants of his crop, as a sacrifice to God. But God rejects Cain's offering, favoring the meat and fat which his younger brother offers. Cain has done nothing wrong, aside from being a farmer, which is even more challenging than being a herdsman. Imagine Cain laboring in the fields, the hot sun on his back, sweat running down his neck. His crops regularly fail or are ridden by disease. His body is weak and malnourished from his diet of vegetables and grain, and deformed from years of back-breaking labor. As he works, he sees his brother in a distant pasture, roaming freely with his flocks. Abel is not bound to the land. He can go wherever he pleases, when he pleases, enjoying the shade of trees and the cool water of streams. Abel is strong and healthy from a rich diet of meat and dairy and long days of walking. And now, on top of this, God scorns Cain and does not accept his offering. Cain's only fault is that he is a farmer. God does not love Abel because he is more moral than Cain. He loves him because he is more successful. God says to Cain, If you do well, will you not be accepted? But what does doing well mean? It clearly has nothing to do with morality or even religious piety, since Cain provides an offering just the same as Abel. God scorns Cain because he is misfortunate. To do well for Cain would mean to acquire the vitality, blessedness, and freedom which his brother enjoys. Then God would accept and favor him. This logic might seem cruel and unfair to us, but it was universally self-evident among the ancients. They believed that God loves the beautiful, the strong, the successful, the wealthy, the powerful. In fact, for the ancients, being loved by God and favored by God is synonymous with having these things. Additionally, the logic follows that God hates the ugly, the sick, the poor, the weak, and the miserable. The blessed are those loved by God. The misfortunate are those hated by him. In this way, the ancients' conception of God was in alignment with nature and life. It had nothing to do with morality and everything to do with virtue. We can understand the ancient conception of virtue by tracing the etymology of the word. Today, virtue means moral life and conduct, a particular moral excellence. From the Old French vertu, meaning force, strength, vigor, and moral strength. This came from the Latin virtus, meaning moral strength, high character, goodness, manliness, valor, bravery, courage in war, excellence, and worth, which stems originally from the Latin vir, meaning man. Thus we can see that the word virtue is something like a combination of the Latin vir, meaning man, and vis, meaning life. The virtuous man is the man who is filled with virility and vitality, the man who is filled with life, ferocity, manliness, and courage. To have virtue is to engage with life in a manly and bold way, and therefore to be rewarded with vitality, beauty, and strength. This conception of virtue and life came before any conceptions of good and evil in the moral sense. In the genealogy of morals, Nietzsche illustrates this exact point by studying the etymology of the words for good, bad, and evil in the various Indo-European languages, and showing that the moral conceptions of good and evil are relatively recent developments. The ancients thought in terms of the blessed and the misfortunate, the ruler and the ruled, the victor and the conquered. Achilles was revered and celebrated because he was a powerful, beautiful, and feared warrior. He was like the gods. He was no more moral than the men who he slaughtered on the plains of Troy, but he proved the superiority of his virtue through the right of nature. And while this may sound extremely harsh to us, it is a truer and more honest way of looking at life. Today, we suffer from a separation from the reality of life and from the fundamental workings of nature. Agricultural society, industrial society, and now even digital society has cut us off from nature. We disguise reality with beautiful words and abstract moral concepts in order to make it seem more tolerable and fair to us. But in doing so, we ignore the concrete procedures which actually allow us to succeed in life. The vegan believes that being moral means causing no harm or pain, and therefore abstains from eating meat. This is a totally reasonable and logical way of thinking. But when they follow this abstract moral ideal, they are punished by nature with malnourishment and decreased vitality. In contrast, the meat eater who allows hundreds of animals to be slaughtered each year for his sake is rewarded by nature with strength and vigor because he has the correct relationship with life. Similarly, the activist who devotes their entire life to social justice may end up depressed because of poor lifestyle choices and get hooked on pharmaceuticals, while the gym bro who eats healthy and never gives any thought to social justice is rewarded by life with beauty, health, and success. Again, this is because the gym bro has a correct relationship with the fundamental principles of life, which allow him to be a winner. In the artificial world which we have created, more than ever we must focus on having the correct, life-affirming procedures in place. Adhere to a clean diet, spend time in nature, craft yourself a beautiful body and a clear mind, purge your environment of physical and psychological toxins, do what makes you powerful, strong, and vital, live your life in alignment with the principles of nature, and life will reward you with beauty, strength, vitality.